Imagine waking up tomorrow morning feeling completely fine. No pain, no warning, nothing unusual. You brush your teeth, walk into your kitchen, pour some coffee, and 2 hours later, you're dead. Not from an accident, not from some rare disease, from something you did that morning. Something millions watching this right now will do tomorrow without thinking twice. This happens every single day. And the worst part? Most people who die this way had no idea they were at risk. They exercised, they ate healthy, they thought they were doing everything right. But they missed one critical thing. Your heart is most vulnerable in the first 2 hours after you wake up. Not during a workout, not during a stressful meeting, not at night, morning. And what you do in those first 2 hours can be the difference between a normal day and your last day. I'm Dr. Megan Foster. I've spent over 24 years working in cardiology and cardiac surgery. I've seen this pattern repeat itself more times than I can count. Healthy looking people, active people, people who followed the standard advice, and yet they collapsed suddenly, often right after waking up, leaving their families completely shocked. Before we go any further, I need to be clear this is educational information, not medical advice. Always consult your own doctor about your specific health situation. But what I'm sharing today could genuinely save your life or the life of someone you care about, because most cardiac deaths in the morning are completely preventable. They're not about genetics, they're not about fate. They're about understanding a few simple biological facts and making small adjustments. If you care about protecting your health long term without extreme diets, expensive supplements, or complicated routines, stick with me. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why so many heart attacks happen in the morning, the 5 most dangerous habits cardiologists see over and over, and the simple changes that dramatically reduce your risk starting tomorrow. No fear mongering, no selling, just clear, practical science that works in real life. Here's what most people don't understand. After 7 or 8 hours of sleep, your body is in a fragile transition state. Your blood is thicker because you're dehydrated. Your blood pressure is unstable because it's been low all night and now has to spike back up. Stress hormones like cortisol surge naturally when you wake. Your blood vessels are tighter, and your heart has to switch from rest mode to full demand mode very quickly. This combination creates a perfect storm for cardiac events. Studies show that heart attacks, fatal heart rhythm problems, and strokes all peak between 6 a.m. and noon. The highest risk window is the first hour after waking. This isn't random, it's biology. Your cardiovascular system is doing the most dramatic transition of the entire day, and most people throw gasoline on that fire without realizing it. So let's talk about the 5 morning mistakes that trigger heart attacks. These aren't rare behaviors. They're things people do every single day thinking they're harmless or even healthy. But during that vulnerable morning window, they can be deadly. Morning mistake number 1, getting out of bed too fast. I know this sounds overly simple, but hear me out. When you're asleep, your blood pressure is low, your heart rate is slow, blood pools in your legs and core. The moment you jump out of bed, gravity pulls blood downward. Your blood pressure has to spike to get blood to your brain, and your heart goes from resting to working hard in seconds. This creates what we call morning cardiovascular shock. For someone with underlying plaque buildup in their arteries, even if they don't know it's there, this sudden pressure surge can rupture that plaque. When plaque ruptures, it triggers a clot. That clot blocks blood flow, and that's a heart attack. This is also why so many people have strokes right after getting up. The blood pressure spike, combined with thick morning blood, is a dangerous combination. But the problem gets worse if you're older, if you have high blood pressure, if you're on certain medications, or if you're dehydrated. Jumping out of bed can cause such a sudden drop in blood flow to the brain that people pass out. And passing out in the bathroom or on hard floors leads to serious injuries or worse. The fix is incredibly simple. Like when you wake up, don't immediately stand. Move your arms and legs slowly while still lying down. Stretch a little. Let your body start waking up gradually. Then sit on the edge of your bed for at least 1 or 2 minutes. Wiggle your feet. Take a few deep breaths. Let your blood pressure stabilize. Then stand up slowly and pause for a moment before walking. This 5-minute transition can prevent thousands of cardiac events and falls every year. It costs nothing. It takes almost no time, but it works. Morning mistake number 2, drinking coffee before water. This is probably the most common mistake I see. People wake up, stumble to the kitchen, and the first thing they put in their body is coffee. It feels normal. It feels harmless. But after sleeping for 7 or 8 hours, you're already dehydrated. You've lost water through breathing and sweating all night. Your blood volume is lower, your blood is more concentrated, and that means it's thicker and more likely to clot. Now you add coffee. Coffee raises your heart rate. It raises your blood pressure. It spikes cortisol, which is already elevated in the morning. And it makes you lose even more water because it's a diuretic. So you're taking an already dehydrated, vulnerable system and stressing it further. Research shows that drinking coffee on an empty stomach first thing in the morning can increase clot formation risk by up to 300% compared to drinking it after hydration and food. And here's the thing, coffee isn't bad. I'm not telling you to give it up. I'm telling you the timing matters. If you hydrate first, eat something small, and then have coffee 20 or 30 minutes later, you get all the benefits with almost none of the risk. Your blood is thinner, your blood pressure is more stable. Your cortisol isn't spiking as hard. It's the same coffee, just better timing. So the fix is simple. When you wake up, drink 2 full glasses of room temperature water, not ice cold because that can shock your system. Just normal water. Wait 20 to 30 minutes. Eat something light, a piece of fruit, some toast, a handful of nuts, anything to get your metabolism going and stabilize blood sugar, then enjoy your coffee. This one change alone can dramatically lower your morning cardiac risk. Morning. Mistake number 3, taking a very hot shower immediately after waking. Hot water causes your blood vessels to dilate suddenly. When that happens, your blood pressure drops. Your body tries to compensate by increasing your heart rate. But remember, you just woke up. Your cardiovascular system is already trying to stabilize. Now you're forcing it to manage a rapid dilation of blood vessels and a compensatory heart rate spike at the same time. This is why thousands of sudden deaths happen in bathrooms every year, especially in older adults. The person gets in a hot shower, their blood pressure drops, they feel dizzy or faint, and they collapse. If they hit their head or have an underlying heart condition, that can be fatal. Even if they don't collapse, the strain on the heart during this transition increases the risk of arrhythmias and heart attacks. The solution is not to avoid showers. It's to be smarter about timing and temperature. Wait at least 15 to 20 minutes after waking before showering. Let your body fully wake up first. When you do shower, start with warm water, not hot. Let your body adjust. Then gradually increase the temperature if you want. Keep the shower duration reasonable. And never alternate between very hot and very cold water in the morning. That creates even more cardiovascular stress. Save contrast showers for later in the day when your system is stable. Morning mistake number 4, intense exercise too early. Exercise is great. I recommend it to almost everyone, but timing and intensity matter, especially in the morning. Most exercise-related heart attacks happen in the morning. And it's not because exercise is dangerous, it's because people push hard when their body isn't ready. Remember, you just woke up. Your blood is thick. Your cortisol is high. Your blood vessels haven't fully relaxed yet. Your heart is still transitioning. If you immediately jump into high intensity interval training, sprinting, heavy lifting, or any maximal effort exercise, you're asking your cardiovascular system to go from 0 to 100 when it's not prepared. That sudden demand can trigger dangerous heart rhythms, spike blood pressure to unsafe levels, or rupture unstable plaque. I've seen too many cases of seemingly healthy people who collapsed during or right after an early morning workout. They thought they were doing something good for their health, and they were, in theory. But the timing was wrong. The fix is to delay intense exercise until at least 90 minutes to 2 hours after waking. Give your body time to hydrate, eat, and stabilize. If you must exercise early, do a very long, gradual warm up. I'm talking 15 to 20 minutes of easy movement before you start pushing hard. Keep morning workouts conversational, not maximal. You should be able to talk in full sentences without gasping. Save your hardest efforts for later in the day when your cardiovascular system is fully ready. Afternoon and early evening are actually the safest times for intense exercise because your body is warmed up, hydrated, and in a stable state. Morning mistake number 5: immediate stress exposure. You wake up, you grab your phone, you check emails, you read the news, you scroll social media. You see something that makes you angry or anxious, or maybe you immediately get into an argument with someone in your household. All of this floods your system with stress. Here's the problem: cortisol, your main stress hormone, is already at its highest point in the early morning. It's part of your natural wake up process. That's normal. But when you add external stress on top of that natural spike, you create what I call a cortisol storm. This drives blood pressure up, it increases inflammation throughout your body, it makes your blood more likely to clot, and it destabilizes any plaque in your arteries. All of these increase your heart attack and stroke risk significantly. There's actually research showing that the emotional stress of watching upsetting news or getting into an argument in the morning can double or triple the risk of a cardiac event in the hours that follow. It's not worth it. The fix is to protect the first hour of your day. No phone, no news, no arguments, no emails. Create a calm, predictable routine. Drink your water, move slowly, eat something, ease into the day. You can check your messages later when your system is stable. This single habit has a massive impact on long term cardiovascular health. It's not just about one morning, it's about not chronically spiking stress hormones during your most vulnerable window every single day for years. Now let's zoom out for a moment. You might be thinking, okay, I get it. Mornings are risky, but how do I actually implement this? Do I have to fix all 5 mistakes at once? No. In fact, I don't recommend trying to change everything overnight. That usually doesn't stick. Instead, pick one, just one. The one that resonates most with you or the one you know you're currently doing wrong. If you always jump out of bed, start with the slow transition. If you're a coffee first person, start hydrating before caffeine. If you take scorching hot showers right away, adjust the timing and temperature. If you do intense workouts at 5 a.m., shift them later or lower the intensity. If you doom scroll first thing, protect that first hour. Just pick one and commit to it for a week. You'll likely notice you feel better. You'll have more energy. You'll feel calmer. And once that habit sticks, add another one. The reason this matters so much is because heart attacks don't usually come out of nowhere. Yes, they feel sudden, but the process that leads to them builds over time. Plaque doesn't form overnight. Chronic high blood pressure doesn't happen from one stressful morning. Inflammation doesn't spike from one bad habit. It's the compounding effect of doing the wrong things during your most vulnerable window every single day for years that sets the stage. And the beautiful thing is that the reverse is also true. Small protective habits done consistently compound into massive long term benefits. Let me give you a real example. I had a patient, a man in his mid 50s, who came to see me after a mild heart attack. He survived, but it was a wake up call. When we went through his routine, he was doing almost everything wrong in the mornings. He'd jump out of bed to turn off his alarm. He'd drink 2 cups of black coffee on an empty stomach while reading work emails that stressed him out. He'd take a very hot shower. Then he'd go straight to the gym and push himself hard. He thought he was being disciplined and productive, but he was slowly destroying his cardiovascular system. We didn't overhaul his entire life. We just adjusted his mornings. Slow wake up, water first, light breakfast, coffee after, warm shower, delayed workouts with better warm ups, no phone for the first hour. Within 3 months, his blood pressure dropped, his resting heart rate improved, His stress levels went down, and he told me he felt 20 years younger. That was 5 years ago. He's still doing great. Now, some of you might be wondering, what about medications? What if I'm already on blood pressure pills or cholesterol medication or baby aspirin? Does this still matter? Absolutely. Medication helps, but it's not a shield. It doesn't make you immune to the cardiovascular stress of bad morning habits. In fact, some blood pressure medications make you more vulnerable to the risks of jumping out of bed or taking hot showers because they can cause more dramatic blood pressure drops. So, if anything, these habits become even more important if you're on medication. And if you're young and healthy and thinking this doesn't apply to you, think again. First, you're building habits now that will carry forward for decades. Second, even young people can have undiagnosed issues. You might have slightly elevated blood pressure and not know it. You might have early plaque formation and not know it. You might have a genetic tendency toward clotting and not know it. Sudden cardiac death happens to people in their 20s and 30s too. It's rarer, but it happens. And it's almost always tied to these same morning triggers. Let's talk about one more thing that doesn't get enough attention: the role of sleep quality in all of this. If you're not sleeping well, everything I've talked about gets worse. Poor sleep increases inflammation, it raises cortisol, it makes blood pressure harder to control, it increases insulin resistance, it makes blood more likely to clot. So if you're doing everything right in the morning, but you're only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, or your sleep is fragmented and low quality, you're still at high risk. Improving sleep is a whole topic on its own, but the basics matter. Consistent sleep schedule, cool, dark room, no screens an hour before bed. Manage stress before sleeping. Avoid heavy meals and alcohol late at night. If you snore heavily or feel exhausted despite sleeping enough hours, talk to your doctor about sleep apnea. Untreated sleep apnea dramatically increases heart attack and stroke risk because it repeatedly drops oxygen levels and spikes blood pressure all night long. Treating it can be life saving. Here's another question I get a lot: what about weekends? Can I sleep in and then jump out of bed? Or have a lazy Sunday morning with coffee in bed and no food? The answer is that your cardiovascular system doesn't know it's the weekend. The biology is the same. You still need to transition slowly. You still need to hydrate. You still need to avoid the same triggers. In fact, if you normally wake up at 6 a.m. on weekdays and then sleep until 10 a.m. on weekends, that disruption to your circadian rhythm can actually increase cardiovascular stress. Your body likes consistency. Now, I want to address something that might be on your mind. You might be thinking, this sounds like a lot of effort. Do I really need to worry about this? Can't I just live my life? And I get it. Nobody wants to feel like they're walking on eggshells. But here's the thing: these aren't difficult changes. They don't require willpower. They don't cost money. They don't take extra time. Sitting on the edge of your bed for 2 minutes is not hard. Drinking water before coffee is not hard. Waiting 20 minutes before a shower is not hard. These are tiny adjustments that become automatic within a week or two, and the payoff is enormous. Think about it this way: would you rather spend 2 minutes sitting on the edge of your bed each morning or spend months recovering from a heart attack? Would you rather drink water before coffee or deal with a stroke? Would you rather ease into your workouts or risk sudden cardiac arrest? The choice is obvious when you frame it that way. And the benefits aren't just about avoiding disaster. People who make these changes consistently report feeling better overall: more energy, better mood, clearer thinking, less anxiety, better workouts later in the day. It's not just about living longer, it's about living better right now. Let me also talk about family. If you have a partner, parents, or older relatives, share this information with them, especially if they're over 50. The risk of morning cardiac events increases significantly with age, and older adults are often set in their routines. They've been jumping out of bed and drinking coffee first thing for 40 years. They don't see any reason to change. But those habits that were fine at 30 can be deadly at 70. You don't have to be preachy about it. Just share what you learned. Suggest they try one small change and see how they feel. I've had so many patients tell me that their spouse or parent had a cardiac event that could have been prevented if they'd just known this information. The regret is immense. Don't let that happen to someone you love. Have the conversation. It might feel awkward, but it could save their life. Now, let's talk about warning signs. Even with perfect morning habits, you need to know when something is wrong. Chest discomfort that feels like pressure or squeezing, especially if it spreads to your jaw, neck, shoulder, or arm. Shortness of breath, sudden sweating, nausea, dizziness, extreme fatigue. These can all be signs of a heart attack, especially if they come on suddenly in the morning. Women often have different symptoms than men. They might just feel extremely tired, nauseous, or have back pain. Don't ignore these. Don't wait to see if they go away. Call for help immediately. And here's something critical. If you think you might be having a heart attack, chew an aspirin if you have one and call emergency services right away. Don't drive yourself to the hospital. Don't wait to see if it gets better. Every minute counts. The faster you get treatment, the more heart muscle can be saved, and the better your chances of a full recovery. On the flip side, some people experience what's called a warning heart attack or unstable angina. This is chest discomfort that comes and goes, maybe happens with exertion and goes away with rest. This is your body's warning system. Don't ignore it. See your doctor immediately. It means you have unstable plaque that could rupture at any time. Catching this early can prevent a major heart attack. Let's also talk about testing. If you're over 40, or if you have risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, family history of heart disease, or if you smoke, talk to your doctor about cardiac screening. A simple stress test, calcium score, or advanced cholesterol panel can give you a much clearer picture of your actual risk. You might think you're fine and discover you have significant plaque buildup. Or you might be worried and find out you're actually in great shape. Either way, knowing is better than guessing. And if you do have risk factors, that doesn't mean you're doomed. It means you need to be smarter and more consistent with protective habits. The morning habits I've described become even more important. Medication might be necessary, but medication plus good habits is always better than medication alone. Here's something else worth mentioning: stress management in general. Not just avoiding stress first thing in the morning, but managing it throughout your life. Chronic stress is one of the biggest drivers of heart disease. It raises blood pressure, it increases inflammation, it promotes plaque formation, it makes blood more likely to clot, and it often leads to other unhealthy behaviors like poor diet, lack of exercise, bad sleep, and substance use. Finding ways to manage stress effectively is not optional if you care about your heart. That could be exercise, meditation, time in nature, therapy, hobbies, strong relationships, whatever works for you. But you need something because you can do everything else right. And if you're chronically stressed, your heart will still suffer. Now, I want to circle back to something I mentioned at the beginning. One of these 5 morning mistakes is significantly more dangerous than the others, especially after age 50. And that's the coffee before water habit. Here's why. As you age, your body's ability to regulate hydration decreases. Your thirst signals get weaker. Your kidneys don't conserve water as well, so you're more likely to be chronically dehydrated without realizing it. Combine that with age related stiffening of blood vessels, higher baseline blood pressure, and more plaque buildup. And that morning, coffee on an empty stomach becomes a much bigger risk. I've reviewed cases where this was the clear trigger. Person wakes up, drinks coffee, blood pressure spikes, thick blood forms a clot, heart attack within an hour, and it's preventable. So if you're going to fix just one thing, especially if you're over 50, make it this one. Hydrate first, every single morning, no exceptions. Another thing worth discussing is alcohol. If you drink alcohol in the evening, it makes your morning even more vulnerable. Alcohol dehydrates you. It disrupts your sleep quality. It can cause blood pressure fluctuations, and it increases inflammation. So if you had a few drinks the night before, you wake up in an even more fragile state. Your blood is thicker, your blood pressure regulation is worse, your heart rhythm might be slightly irregular. And if you then pile on the morning mistakes, the risk multiplies. I'm not saying never drink, but be aware of this connection. If you do drink, hydrate well before bed and be extra careful about your morning routine the next day. Don't skip the water. Don't rush. Don't push hard in a workout. Give your body time to recover. Let's also address diet briefly. What you eat in the morning matters too, although it's not one of the five main mistakes I'm focusing on. A heavy, greasy breakfast can increase inflammation and make blood thicker. A very high sugar breakfast spikes insulin and can cause blood sugar crashes that stress the cardiovascular system. A balanced breakfast with protein, healthy fats, and some fiber is ideal. It stabilizes blood sugar. It provides steady energy. It doesn't spike inflammation. And it supports overall heart health. But again, timing matters more than perfection. Even if your breakfast isn't perfect, eating something is better than nothing. And eating before coffee is better than coffee on an empty stomach. Now, some of you might be thinking, what about supplements? Should I be taking fish oil or magnesium or CoQ10 or vitamin D? The truth is, supplements can help, but they're not a substitute for good habits. If you're deficient in something, fixing that deficiency can make a difference. But if you're doing all five morning mistakes, no supplement will save you. Fix the habits first, then consider supplements as an additional layer of support if your doctor recommends them. Let me share one more patient story to drive this home. I had a woman in her early 60s who came to me after her husband died, suddenly of a heart attack. He'd been healthy, or so they thought. No major symptoms. Active lifestyle. And then one morning he collapsed in the bathroom and didn't survive. She was devastated and terrified that the same thing would happen to her. We went through her routine. She was making three of the five mistakes: jumping out of bed, coffee first, and checking stressful news immediately. We made the adjustments. She was skeptical at first. It felt too simple, but she committed. And not only did her cardiovascular markers improve, she also said she felt more in control. She wasn't living in fear anymore because she understood what to do. That sense of control is important. Fear doesn't help. Anxiety doesn't help. But understanding the biology and taking simple, effective action, that's empowering. So let me summarize everything we've covered. Your heart is most vulnerable in the first 2 hours after waking. This is when heart attacks, arrhythmias, and strokes are most likely to happen. It's not random, it's biology. Your blood is thicker, your blood pressure is unstable, your stress hormones are high, your blood vessels are tight, and your heart is transitioning from rest to demand. The five most dangerous morning habits are jumping out of bed too fast, drinking coffee before water, taking very hot showers immediately after waking, doing intense exercise too early, and exposing yourself to stress right away. Each of these adds strain to an already vulnerable system, and the compounding effect over years significantly increases your risk. The fixes are simple. Transition slowly when you wake up. Hydrate before caffeine. Wait before showering and start with warm water. Delay intense workouts or do long warm ups. Protect the first hour from stress. These aren't extreme changes. They're small adjustments that become automatic quickly, and they can add years to your life. If you do nothing else, fix the hydration habit. Drink water first thing every morning. That alone will lower your risk significantly. And if you're over 50, or if you have any cardiovascular risk factors, take this even more seriously. Your margin for error is smaller. I also want to emphasize that this isn't about living in fear. It's about living smarter. You don't have to be paranoid. You don't have to obsess over every little thing. You just need to understand the vulnerable window and avoid the obvious triggers. That's it. And remember, sudden cardiac death is rarely truly sudden. The process builds over time. Every morning you do the wrong things, you're adding to the risk. But every morning you do the right things, you're protecting yourself. The choice is yours. Before we finish, I want to mention one more resource. If you found this information valuable and you want a clear, structured guide to protecting your health long term without extremes or confusion, I've put together a detailed longevity framework. It covers daily timing, habit stacking, and small biological decisions that compound over decades to protect your heart, brain, metabolism, and overall vitality. You'll find the link in the description. It pairs perfectly with what you've learned here today and gives you a complete roadmap. Now, if this video helped you, I have one request. Share it. Send it to someone you care about, especially if they're older, especially if they have risk factors, especially if they're doing these morning mistakes. You could genuinely save a life. And if you want more science based health information that actually fits into real life without extremes or fear mongering, subscribe to this channel. I'm here to give you clear, practical guidance you can actually use. Let me give you some additional practical context that will help you implement these changes more effectively. One question I get often is, what if I have an unpredictable schedule? What if I work night shifts or rotating shifts? The principles still apply, but you have to adapt them to your wake time, not the clock. Whenever you wake up from your main sleep period, that's your vulnerable window, whether it's 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. The biology doesn't care what time the clock shows. It cares about the transition from sleep to wakefulness. So if you wake up at 3 p.m. after working overnight, you still need to transition slowly, hydrate first, avoid immediate stress, and delay intense activity. Your circadian rhythm might be shifted, but the cardiovascular vulnerability after waking remains the same. In fact, shift workers often have higher cardiac risk precisely because their routines are disrupted. So, being extra careful about these habits becomes even more important. Another common question is about weekends and travel. What if you're in a different time zone? What if your routine gets disrupted? Again, the key is to stick to the core principles as much as possible. If you're traveling and staying in a hotel, you might not have your normal setup, but you can still transition slowly when you wake up. You can still drink water before coffee. You can still avoid checking your phone immediately. You can still skip the scalding hot shower. Adaptation is possible anywhere. And if you do have a morning where everything goes wrong, where you have to rush, where you can't follow the ideal routine, don't panic. One bad morning won't kill you. It's the pattern over time that matters. Just get back on track the next day. Consistency over perfection. Now let's talk about monitoring your progress. How do you know if these changes are actually helping? There are a few ways. First, pay attention to how you feel. Most people who make these adjustments notice they have more steady energy in the morning. They don't get that shaky, jittery feeling from coffee on an empty stomach. They don't feel dizzy or lightheaded when they stand up. They feel calmer and more focused. These are good signs. Second, if you track your blood pressure at home, you might notice it becomes more stable. Morning blood pressure tends to be high for many people, and these habits can help moderate that spike. If you see your numbers improving over a few weeks, that's concrete evidence that what you're doing is working. Third, if you're working with a doctor and getting regular checkups, lab markers can improve. Inflammatory markers like C reactive protein might come down. Lipid panels might improve. Fasting glucose might stabilize. These are longer term changes, but they're meaningful. And fourth, if you were experiencing any subtle symptoms before, like occasional chest tightness, palpitations, or shortness of breath in the morning, and those symptoms decrease or disappear, that's a strong signal that you are stressing your cardiovascular system and you've now removed that stress. Let me address one more important topic: the role of genetics. Some people think, well, my family has a history of heart disease, so I'm doomed no matter what I do. That's not true. Yes, genetics matter. If you have a strong family history, your baseline risk is higher. But that doesn't mean your fate is sealed. In fact, it means you have even more to gain from protective habits. Think of it this way: if you have a genetic predisposition, you're starting with a loaded gun. Bad habits pull the trigger. Good habits keep the safety on. You might not be able to change the gun, but you absolutely can control whether it goes off. And research shows that lifestyle factors often outweigh genetic factors when it comes to actual outcomes. People with high genetic risk who live well often do better than people with low genetic risk who live poorly. So, if heart disease runs in your family, these morning habits aren't optional, they're essential. And you should also be more proactive about screening, medication if needed, and working closely with a cardiologist. But don't use genetics as an excuse to give up. Use it as motivation to be smarter. Let's also talk about the connection between morning habits and other aspects of health. The same habits that protect your heart also protect your brain. Stroke risk follows the same morning pattern as heart attack risk. The same thick blood, high blood pressure, and vascular stress that can cause a heart attack can also cause a stroke. So, by protecting your heart, you're also protecting your brain. And there's growing evidence that these habits impact cognitive function in other ways too. Chronic dehydration affects memory and focus. Cortisol spikes impair learning and decision making. Poor sleep quality increases dementia risk. So the benefits extend far beyond just avoiding a cardiac event. You're also protecting your mental clarity, your memory, your mood, and your long term brain health. The same goes for metabolic health. The morning cortisol spike, especially when compounded by stress and caffeine on an empty stomach, can worsen insulin resistance over time. This contributes to weight gain, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. By managing your mornings better, you're also supporting healthier blood sugar regulation and metabolic function. So these aren't just heart habits, they're longevity habits, they're brain health habits, they're metabolic health habits. The fact that they're simple and take almost no extra time makes them even more valuable. You're getting multiple benefits from the same small changes. Now, I want to address a mindset shift that I think is really important. Many people approach health from a place of fear or deprivation. They think, I have to give up things I enjoy. I have to suffer through strict routines. I have to constantly worry. But that's the wrong frame. What I'm describing isn't about deprivation, it's about optimization. You're not giving up coffee, you're drinking it at a better time. You're not avoiding showers, you're adjusting the temperature and timing. You're not skipping exercise, you're doing it when your body is ready. You're not cutting out technology, you're protecting 1 hour of your day. None of this is sacrifice, it's just smarter sequencing. And the reward isn't some distant, abstract benefit. It's feeling better today, having more energy today, being calmer today, performing better today. Yes, you're also reducing long term risk, but the immediate quality of life improvement is real and noticeable. That's what makes these habits sustainable. They don't just protect your future, they enhance your present. Let me also mention something about accountability and support. Making changes is easier when you're not doing it alone. If you live with someone, talk to them about what you're doing and why, ask them to support you. Maybe they'll even join you in making the same changes. Having a partner in this makes it more likely you'll stick with it. If you live alone, consider telling a friend or family member about your goals. Check in with them weekly. Share your progress. Even that small layer of accountability can make a big difference. And if you're working with a doctor or health coach, let them know what you're implementing. They can help track your progress and adjust as needed. There's also value in keeping a simple journal, at least for the first few weeks. Write down what time you woke up, how you transitioned, when you had water, when you had coffee, how you felt. After a week or two, patterns will emerge. You'll see what's working and what needs adjustment. And you'll have concrete evidence of your progress, which is motivating. Now, let's discuss what happens if you've already had a cardiac event. Maybe you've had a heart attack, stent placement, bypass surgery, or you've been diagnosed with significant heart disease. Do these habits still matter? Absolutely. In fact, they matter more. You're in a higher risk category. Your margin for error is smaller. The morning window is even more dangerous for you. This is called secondary prevention. You're trying to prevent another event, and the research is very clear. People who survive a heart attack and then adopt protective lifestyle habits have much better long term outcomes than those who don't. Medication is important, medical procedures are important, but lifestyle is equally important. You need all three. If you're in this category, I'd also recommend being extra cautious about dehydration, skipping doses of medication, and pushing too hard too soon with exercise. Work closely with your cardiologist and cardiac rehab team, but absolutely implement these morning habits. They're a critical part of your recovery and long term health. Let me also touch on something that doesn't get talked about enough: the psychological impact of cardiac events. Many people who survive a heart attack or stroke develop anxiety, depression, or post traumatic stress. They're terrified it will happen again. They become hypervigilant. They're afraid to exercise. They're afraid to sleep. This fear can be paralyzing. If this is you, please know that it's normal and there is help available. Therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, can be very effective. Support groups with other survivors can help. And sometimes medication for anxiety or depression is necessary and helpful. There's no shame in that. But I also think knowledge is therapeutic. Understanding why events happen and what you can do to prevent them gives you a sense of control. It transforms fear into action. That's part of why I make these videos. I want people to feel empowered, not scared. Let's talk about one more practical consideration: cost. Some people worry that being healthy is expensive. You need a gym membership, organic food, supplements, fancy gadgets. But the habits I've described cost nothing. Sitting on the edge of your bed is free. Drinking water is essentially free. Adjusting your shower temperature is free. Protecting your morning from stress is free. Even delaying your workout doesn't cost anything. Yes, there are aspects of health that can require money: medical care, healthy food, a safe place to exercise. But the fundamentals are accessible to everyone, and the ROI is massive. Preventing a heart attack saves tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands in medical costs, not to mention the incalculable value of years of healthy life. So if money is tight, don't let that stop you from implementing these changes. They're among the highest value interventions you can make for your health, and they require zero financial investment. Now, I want to circle back to something I mentioned earlier, but want to expand on: the importance of consistency. One good morning won't change your life. 100 good mornings will. 1,000 good mornings will. This is about building a pattern that protects you day after day, year after year. And here's the beautiful thing about habits: they get easier with time, not harder. The first week might require conscious effort. You have to remind yourself, you have to think about it. But by week 3 or 4, it becomes automatic. You don't have to think about sitting on the edge of the bed. You just do it. You don't have to think about water before coffee. It's just your routine. And once it's automatic, it requires no willpower. It's just what you do. That's when the real compounding happens. That's when you get years of protection without any ongoing effort. That's the goal. Let me share one more story that illustrates the power of this. I had a patient, a man in his late 60s, who came to me for a second opinion after being told he needed bypass surgery. His arteries were significantly blocked. Surgery was definitely an option, but he wanted to know if there was anything else he could do. We went through everything. His diet needed work. His stress levels were through the roof, and his mornings were a disaster. We made changes across the board, but the morning routine was a big focus. Within 6 months, his symptoms improved significantly. His exercise tolerance went up. His quality of life was better. We repeated his imaging, and while the blockages hadn't disappeared, they had stabilized. He ended up not needing surgery at that time. Now, I'm not saying these habits replace medical care, they don't, but they absolutely complement it, and sometimes they can delay or even prevent the need for more aggressive interventions. That's powerful. All right, we're coming to the end here, and I want to leave you with a clear action plan. Tonight, before you go to bed, decide which of the 5 habits you're going to focus on first. Maybe put a glass of water on your nightstand so you remember to drink it first thing. Maybe set your alarm 5 minutes earlier to give yourself time for a slow transition. Maybe turn your phone off or put it in another room so you're not tempted to check it right away. Just pick one. Commit to it for 1 week. See how it feels. Notice the difference. Then, if you're ready, add another habit. Build gradually. Be patient with yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. The goal is sustainable change, not perfection. And if you slip up, which you will because we all do, just get back on track the next morning. Don't beat yourself up. Don't throw in the towel. Just resume the habit. That's the key. Consistency over time, not perfection in the moment. I also want to remind you one more time about the longevity guide I mentioned. It goes much deeper into daily timing, habit stacking, and how small decisions compound over decades. It's a complete framework for protecting your heart, brain, and metabolic health without extremes. You'll find the link in the description. And if you found this video valuable, please share it. Send it to your parents. Send it to your spouse. Send it to a friend who needs to hear this. The information in this video could literally save a life, and that's not an exaggeration. Morning cardiac events are one of the leading causes of death worldwide, and most of them are preventable with simple changes. If you want more content like this, science-based, practical, no nonsense health information that actually fits into real life, subscribe to this channel. I'm committed to giving you clear guidance you can use without fear-mongering or selling you things you don't need. One final thought. You only get one heart. You only get one life. And the decisions you make in the first 2 hours of each day have a bigger impact than most people realize. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent with a few simple protective habits. Do that, and you dramatically lower your risk of the most common cause of sudden death. You protect the people who depend on you, and you give yourself the best chance at a long, healthy, vibrant life. Your heart works for you every second of every day without you even thinking about it. It beats over 100,000 times a day, pumping blood to every cell in your body, keeping you alive. The least you can do is give it a fighting chance by not sabotaging it in the morning. These small acts of care compound into years of life, and those years matter. They matter to you. They matter to the people you love. They matter to the legacy you'll leave. So take this seriously, not from a place of fear, but from a place of respect for your body and appreciation for your life. Make the changes, be consistent, and trust that the effort, minimal as it is, will pay dividends you can't even fully appreciate right now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking your health seriously. And thank you for being here. Take care of your heart, protect your mornings, and I'll see you in the next video.